Hi, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I live. I just want to go ahead and have you take over.
Oh, sure. So, oof, this is it's kind of a long story, but I'll try to make it, not super freaking long. Let's just go back to technically, I've been in a couple of abusive relationships. The first one was psychologically abusive. The second one was also psychologically abusive, but like kind of borderline physical. So basically, we're just going to focus on the second one. This guy was a narcissist, a sociopath, and also a psychopath. So that was cool, super fun. And of course, I'm an empath as a psychic. So I just want to mention that back then, I did not know that I could do any of this stuff. I didn't even believe in any of this, actually. I thought it was like hocus pocus, woo woo, like, I don't know. I thought everything was like a scam or something. So after having been in this relationship where, in the beginning it was amazing and he was Prince Charming and all that other fun stuff. And I just like he was like, he's perfect for me. And I thought he was the best that I was ever gonna get. Look, my self-worth was not that great back then. So whoops. And on and off for 6 years, super toxic, you know, kind of made me feel like everything that went wrong in the relationship was my fault. I felt pretty much freaking worthless. And then towards the end, well, okay, I guess I'll go to like about halfway through, he had like pretty much just ghosted me in the middle of the relationship, didn't say anything. That was fun. Then he came back and he was like, I'm sorry, I still love you. And of course, I was like, oh, yay, or something. So he had moved to upstate New York, so it was like about 3.5 hour drive for me. So I moved up there. I had actually given him half of the security deposit so we could get a place together. Of course, he did not get a place
Oh,
for us. No, I know he did not get a place for us, and then he did not have the money. So I stayed in the motel with him for the first night. Then I found a place the next day and was there for a couple of years. And he lived with me, didn't pay for anything. Again, my self-worth was not that great, and I had this idea that this guy was like the best I could ever have and like blah 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 blah. So one day, December 2016, he breaks up with me, or he's like he wants to see other people. Broke my heart, but I was like, you know what, maybe we just need some time apart. 2 weeks after that, he says he got married. So yeah. So then I moved back home with my parents. And fast forward like 4 years of me basically being like, there's no one out there for me. Just no one. So after 4 years of being like, there's nobody out there for me. So 4 years later, believing like no one's out there for me. Oh my God. Anyway, I guess I should back up a little bit. When I got back, I discovered the guy had actually been with multiple women over all 6 years, and like my whole life was a lie basically. So before I was like agnostic, and then after this situation, I decided I was atheist because I was like, if God were real, none of this would have happened to me. He wouldn't have allowed any of this stuff. And of course, there were many, many, many signs that I just kind of completely ignored because I wanted to be loved. So one day, February 13th, the day before Valentine's Day in 2021, an ad showed up on my Facebook newsfeed, and it was, I can draw your soulmate. And I was like, this is probably a scam. However, I was also just so curious about knowing if there was someone out there. Maybe this person would pick up absolutely nobody. Maybe I had no soulmate, or maybe they would pick up somebody. And so I spent a good like 30 minutes trying to determine if I wanted to spend $35 on this reading. So I did it. And the reading has not come true, but that's not the point. The point is, it was the first time in 4 years where I actually believed that there could be someone out there for me. And so I started Googling psychics, and then it just went down a rabbit hole into chakras, Reiki, crystals, tarot, astrology, design. And I was like, oh my God, I want to learn everything all at once. I was like, I want to be a psychic. How the hell do I do that? Don't you have to be born with those abilities? So, also, spoiler alert, I guess I was born with them, but I shut them down when I was a kid. I'm guessing it has to do with a lot of like childhood and my gifts really come from my heart space. And so after like a lifetime of being hurt and pain and all that stuff, I had just like shut it down. So like I wouldn't really allow myself to feel loved because I didn't feel like I deserved love. And so I started going to holistic expos, spiritual expos, met a guy. First thing he says to me, "You're going to be," and I was so excited. I was so happy. I was like, "Really?" And now fast forward from then, it's been like 3.5 years, and now this is what I do. I am a psychic and I am an energy healer. I'm an energy healer. I am a level 3 Reiki practitioner. I am a transformation and liberation coach. I like do all this stuff, and I left my day job back in July, and now here I am, just doing my thing, and also still working through a lot of because honestly, when I left my day job, it's like all of it came to the surface, and it was really heavy. But that's also kind of part of my journey. So even though I've experienced a lifetime of and these relationships, I understand that all of it happened for me. And I also learned from somebody that apparently I've done this dance with this guy in 3 other lifetimes, and I just didn't learn a lesson those lifetimes. And I'm like, okay, I've definitely learned the lesson this time. We're not doing this again. Thank you very much. So, yeah, that's kind of a short version of my story.
I'm sorry, I was playing peekaboo. Like Kendrick Lamar at
Yeah.
the Super Bowl, peekaboo. But yes, no, the things that you said resonate so much with me because I have gone through those similar things and I have actually spoken my truth. I'm in the process. I'm working on stop saying the word like, but with it, one thing with me is throughout my life, I've dealt with narcissists. I never knew the name. I never
Oh,
knew
I
the
didn't
name
either.
until my most recent encounter, where after everything ended up happening, then the person wants to be like, "Oh, my friends told me you're a narcissist." I was like, "What the fuck is a narcissist?" I looked it up. I was like, "That's everything that falls into you." But I'm not gonna. This is about you. I spoke my truth on my podcast because I wanted to be the first one to do it before I started publishing everybody else's. Lead by example,
Mhm.
But yes,
Yeah.
when it comes down to let me ask you this question:
Cool.
when the relationship was done, did you have a hard time realizing what was real and what was not? Thinking back on the
Hold on.
situations in that relationship.
So, okay. So, not initially. When I moved back
Mm-hmm.
in with my parents, I
Yes.
actually because I started talking to the women that I suspected that he was having a thing with.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that I was right the whole time. So
Mm.
I started Googling his
Intuition.
behaviors. Well, I guess technically I must have had it. I must have had it freaking back then. I mean, I had everybody around me pointing out to me. Well, not when I was living up there because it was secret. It was a secret because we were working together. And he was like, if you tell anybody, we're gonna get
Um,
fired. So there's a freaking sign right there.
yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'd want to show you off, but anyway.
No. So I started Googling his behaviors, and then that's when I learned what a narcissist was, which is interesting that you say that because I did not know what a narcissist was until after that relationship.
I'm gonna have to pull a book up for you. It's called Empaths and Narcissists.
Yeah.
And in that book, I have the audio version. In that book, it talks about how narcissists often seek out empaths, are drawn to
Oh, yeah.
empaths. And empaths tend to attract narcissists based off of their genuine way that they are, the way that they naturally love and care. And narcissists try and feed off of empaths based off of that love. And also at the same time, empaths are always usually, for the most part, especially if you're a newer empath and you're not aware of everything that's going on, it's easy to get preyed upon and manipulated due to the fact that you're unaware of what it is you're feeling. You're going to be questioning a lot of things already. One thing that deals with manipulation is if you're easily triggered, you're easily manipulated. And with empaths, we are somewhat easily triggered until we end up learning our lesson, which, how you stated earlier, you've been having this tango of life many lifetimes ago with the same, I call it the same demon. At this point in my life, I've been fighting the same demon in a different flesh suit throughout my eons. And it sucks because once you think that you tackle it, then it comes after you in a different flesh suit. And you
Mm,
have to be able to recognize the signs. And once you understand it, then you're able to move differently.
right.
So, I mean, it's interesting that you say that. Now, what I want to do is, as a psychic and energy healer, what was your first experience with the spiritual realm and how did it shape your journey?
So, on it, technically, my first experience would have been when I was a kid, because I guess there was
Mm-hmm.
this one time when I looked at a picture of my grandfather and I said, Pop Pop, which is what he would have liked to be called. But he passed away before I was born, and my parents were like, what the fuck? So, but I spent a long time after I pursued this feeling like an imposter because I started
Oh,
with tarot and I was not connected to my intuition at all. I spent the first year just kind of reading for myself and feeling like I was a shit reader and and like I was terrible at it. But I had a coach who was also psychic and she like I had told her at one point I was like, "Hey, I need to make some money. I don't know what to do." Yeah. So she was like, there's an expo this weekend that you can give readings at, and it was literally like 36 hours away. It was crazy. And I just happened to have off work the next day, so that day I spent
ooh,
the
divine
day.
time.
Oh yeah, it was November 11th, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally 11/11. So that was cool. But I remember when I did this expo, I felt so guilty and I felt like I was going to throw up and I was so anxious because I felt like an imposter. I felt like a fraud. I was like, how can I charge anybody any money when I suck at this? But turns out I didn't suck. I was right about everything and I had no idea why, but I just, I just went with it. So even like I still do expos. This weekend I have an expo, but I did spend a couple years doubting myself and just being like it's a coincidence or I don't know, I told myself it was a coincidence a lot, and really there are no coincidences, there are only synchronicities. But when
Yes,
I
yes.
yeah,
Combine.
yeah. So when I first got into the way that my works is I get like an image of the person in my mind and they look like a cartoon character and they can show me symbols. I'll get random like words sometimes, but I started to really believe that I wasn't making stuff up when someone's uncle came through. Like I described the person and she was like, it could be a lot of people. And then I described the uncle's personality because I can feel their feelings, I can feel their personalities. And she was like, oh, that's my uncle. So then the uncle showed me something. It was like a blue cartoon rectangle, like a 3D cartoon box, basically. And on the box were two red circles. They were buttons or dials. I couldn't figure it out. And to me, it looked like this was
Uh-huh.
like an old electronic device. And there were a couple of antennas on it. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell this is. So I was like, I'm just going to describe it to her anyway. And she was like, I used to work in radio and I loved it. And I was like, oh my God, it's a fucking radio. I could not figure it
That
out.
is
And I know, right? And I just was like, I am definitely not a fraud. I am the real fucking deal. There is no way that anybody can tell me that what I'm doing is fake because I literally just had a guy show me a radio. I didn't know what it was and somebody confirmed it was a radio and it actually like meant a lot to her.
that is honestly extremely cool. Just based off of the fact that you were able to. So let me ask this question: how do you see it as if it's actually right in front of you, like how you see the computer or whatever you're using and see me and all that? Do you see it like that, or is it a faint image, like when you close your eyes and you see things,
No,
or is
it's
it
definitely like
literally?
in my mind. That's why I thought I was an imposter for so long because I'm like I'm just making this stuff up. Like it's literally just my
Uh-huh.
imagination, but it wasn't my imagination. So I very much would like to get to a point one day where I can actually see
Yes.
spirits. I want to see them with my eyeballs. So I'm at a point now where I can kind of see like if I were to do Reiki or something in my hands or like
Mhm.
push Reiki out of my hand, I can see really faint swirls in
Oh
the
wow.
space above my hand and I'm like, yeah, that's so cool. So I'm getting stronger. Everything is coming online for me. It's getting stronger and I'm like I
Mhm.
would love to just like see stuff.
So you mentioned something earlier that came from the Kabbalion. There is no such thing as coincidences. There's no
Mhm.
such thing. Have you read The Kabbalion?
I have
The
not.
Cabal? Oh, okay. Okay. When you get a chance, look that up. That is a book that's going to have you like, okay, it deals a lot with chemical alchemy.
Ooh,
Yeah.
nice.
So look that up. And when you read it, you'll know that it's your time to get it because it states that if you found this book, it's because it is time for you to, there was a reason for you to find the book. Somebody brought it to you for a reason. But yes,
Oh,
oh, yeah.
yeah.
I have also interviewed another lady in the past, Melissa, the psychic outlaw. I would love to have both y'all on at the same time because there can be a lot of validation between y'all two to help one another. I
Ooh.
mean, she's been doing it for a very, very long time, and that it might answer some questions that you may have with you being newer than she is.
Mm, nice.
Now, my next question for you is many people struggle with personal transformation and letting go of limiting beliefs. What is one powerful practice or mindset shift that you can help them step into liberation?
So, even in my own journey of working on challenging my own limiting beliefs and everything, it's been very interesting because what my brain
Mhm.
does is it makes me feel like it's unsafe to change my
Ooh,
belief systems. Like, because the way the brain works is it's like, even though where I'm at now is uncomfortable, it is familiar and therefore it is safe. So
oh
as
my
you work
God, you're speaking my
to,
language.
yeah. So as you work towards what you want, your brain is like, yeah, this could be safer. This could be better. Like logically, it's better, but we are not familiar with this. So therefore, it is unsafe. And it's also a matter of like sometimes the brain goes, oh, well, if I allow myself to be happy, if I allow myself to have nice things or even be loved, it can be taken away. And the brain perceives that as more painful than just being in the constant discomfort because at least you know what that feels like. So there are so many things that you can do. I've done so many things over the years, but I think one of the most powerful things is inner child work, which is the purpose behind that is to go back through your experiences and look at them from a different perspective because we tend to a lot of us go through life looking at ourselves as victims. So if you can understand that from a spiritual perspective, you agreed to learn certain things before you came here. You picked your parents, you picked your experiences, you picked a lot of stuff. And so you might be like, why the hell would I pick this? Because I've definitely asked myself those things, like, why would I do this? And what I'm learning recently, and hopefully somebody can take something from this, is that the reason these things are happening is so that you can learn exactly what it is that you need to learn in order to get to where it is that you want to be or where you want to go so that you can be strong enough and, hmm, I don't want to use the word capable, but I'm just going to use that anyway, like capable enough to be able to handle what is coming your way that is for you. So, working with your inner child and making them feel loved because they do still exist. It's like I work with people and I can feel their inner child and like sometimes it's like the inner child is like 4 or 5, sometimes they're like 6 or 7, but they're usually crying out for attention. They're usually like screaming and crying and they just want love and I'm like you got to work on loving yourself. Like you got to do some inner child work, do some like visualization, some breath work and release that energy from your
Yes.
body. Yeah. So there is also something that I've been doing is I like lately I've just been challenging every single thing that comes up in my mind that is negative about myself. And I will say literally the exact opposite because I'm like, no, we're not doing this anymore. My brain is not just gonna run loose and do whatever the hell it wants to do. The brain is a tool. Like your heart is really where you're meant to be. The relationship between the heart and the body is important, but right now a lot of us are so stuck in our heads and the connection between our brain and our heart has basically been severed over a lifetime of trash. So, a lot of people also unfortunately will just kind of give up as they're working on this stuff because it's so hard, but at the same time if you give up, then like that's just your subconscious, like kind of, it's like sabotaging you basically, because your subconscious does not like change. Again, your subconscious is like, change is not safe. Anything that is uncomfortable, your brain is like, this is going to kill me, which of course is not actually true. Like we logically know it's not true, but that's how the ego works. Well, the negative ego anyway. The ego is not a bad thing, but there is a negative ego, and we just like, we don't, I don't like it. I don't like it. So yeah, a really good place to start would be childhood, because then it kind of reframes everything that happened, and it allows you to kind of work on forgiving yourself and forgiving others, and also allowing yourself to see throughout your whole life's experiences how what role you played in the things that happened to or for you that were traumatic.
What you were saying, that is amazing. I feel like you kind of just gave a brief coaching course.
Yeah.
I feel like I have to pay you after this. But
Nice.
it's interesting at the fact that the things that you said, it aligns with a lot of other individuals who are psychics or even dealing with nature. They mention the same things. You need to focus on self. You need to understand self and go back, pretty much unlearn the things that you have been indoctrinated into.
Mm.
Because I have a lady, her name is Heaven, and we have conversations all the time. And she stated as well, we are human beings. We're supposed to be being, not doing. The things that we are doing is being trained on what is normal based off society. She was like, you think about it, no other animal is taught how it needs to be. It's just natural. We're supposed to be natural, but instead we're so focused on being normal. And I feel like with us being, from when we're young, being told how we need to look, how we need to act, how we need to dress, how we need to eat, what silverware we use on what time, what's and all that, it has made it to where now we sit here and make it to where we're limiting ourselves on our abilities, on our capabilities, to where, how you stated earlier, when your gifts were coming around, you thought you were a fraud. You didn't believe in what you were doing because it seemed a little far-fetched and just coincidence, until you started hitting things on the exact of what it is.
Yeah.
Calling it out, the antenna of the radio, that's pretty dope, by the way.
Yeah.
I have had situations, but I not that crazy, not that intense, not that specific. There's been, what I do, I'll go out to stores and I keep index cards in my car. I'll write on the index cards and things will just come to me. I'll write on the index cards. What I do is I'll fold the index cards in half, put it in my pocket. And as I'm walking through the store, something will just be like, hey, talk to that person, give them a card. And I'll be like, all right, cool. I'll go into my pocket randomly, pull one out, give it to them. I've had many times where people were like, oh my God, you're an angel. Like I prayed and da-da-da. I was just like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, because I don't even know what card I gave you. Like it's in my pockets. I just pull it out randomly. But it happens to resonate with them like perfectly. And I'm just like, okay, cool. Well, good job. All right, cool. But I mean,
Nice.
the fact with you, I want to ask, because you said that you also, like the one time you described the person's personality, you could feel them.
Yeah.
Do you need to be around the person physically to be able to
No.
feel them? Or, oh, so what
No.
you're telling me is you might be able to feel me from wherever you are and where I am.
I would have to tap in on purpose. I mean, I
Okay,
don't,
cool.
I'm not the kind of
That
person
goes
that
into
is
my
just,
next question.
yeah.
I'm learning at the same time, dude, based off of the things that I know with my abilities, I am right now, I'm asking questions to better understand for me as well. And anybody
Awesome.
else who may not know the gifts that they have and they have been an outcast throughout their life because they were told that they were crazy or that's not really happening, getting gaslit on the
Mhm.
things that they feel when they know what they feel. They know what they see. So I'm doing
Yeah.
this and I'm going to start with beginner questions I'm asking now, going to intermediate to more advanced, because there's levels to this stuff. It's not like you just come in and know what the hell's going on right off the bat. Nobody is born and is like, I'm advised to do this and this and this, and they know exactly how to do it. there comes a point to where it seems that you have to go through certain things. And once you understand those things, then these other abilities start to manifest, start to show themselves, or you have a better understanding on them. I feel like I don't want to say I feel. I believe that a lot of individuals who come into spirituality and come into the types of gifts that have always been with them or even in their family that they have not been told about, something drastic has to happen in their life for them to finally grasp and understand what is going on.
I have heard that a lot of people, like, it's not everybody. There are some people who like are born with, I mean, technically I said I was born with it, but like if
Hmm.
they're in an environment where the gifts are really nurtured or the
Hmm.
gifts are not ones that are scary, because I know somebody who had turned her gifts off because she was able to see spirits who were trapped on Earth, and the way that they showed
Oh,
themselves to her
wow.
was from the way that they looked when they died. So it was kind of gruesome.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so she turned it off, but now she knows that she's meant to help these spirits cross over. But yeah, so I mean, for me, the whole thing was basically the relationships, and that was super freaking duper. But it's different for everybody. So, like, some people get their gifts when they have a near-death experience.
So some people do have experiences that cause it to where I guess the experience is ultimately having the individual realize, like, you know what, I'm still here. There's something greater than me that, and then with that, I feel like it causes them to research and educate themselves more on what is going on, whether that is with talking with family or diving into books, or in your case, Google. so, so I mean, it is something that I believe that all of us have latent gifts.
Yeah,
However, the issue is it's not talked about. So therefore, a lot of people will feel that they are crazy according to societal norms because it's not something they can talk about. And then people can use it against them in court.
interesting.
I've been in that situation. Like how
Oh,
earlier I had a previous narcissistic relationship, how I learned about what narcissist was, and I had a diary. This woman actually took a cert out of my diary where I was talking about it calms me down to see family that's dead. However, typo, that wasn't in there. So it looked like family dead. Family is dead. She tried to make it seem like I wanted to kill my family and all that stuff and highlighted that particular point. And with it in court, I had to show the whole thing. In the whole thing, it talks about how I felt like I was not good enough. So how is like, and a bunch of other things where it's like I'm beating myself up. So why all of a sudden I want to kill my family? Like it doesn't make sense. Like if anything, wouldn't I want to take my own life? But whatever. So in
geez.
Thanksgiving of that year, before she decided to try and take me to court and destroy my life, my grandma actually informed me of these things, the gifts that I have about when my hands are burning. And I was like, how the fuck you know that? Because that's been happening for a long time. Never said anything. And it actually had caused a PTSD moment for me from one of the tours I did in war. And there was one time I remember looking, it looked like I had blood on my hands from a situation we had been in. And so I was like freaking out. So it kind of like stopped me. Anytime I felt my hands like warming up, I would try and put them on something cold. I would try and put them in ice, grab something chilled, whatever. And I mean, I also had realized that the amount that I started drinking started going back up. And after talking to my grandma, I was like, okay, started understanding. She pulled out pictures. I started recognizing the individuals from when I would close my eyes and want to meditate when I was angry. And I was like, oh, and she was like, those are your ancestors. This right here is cousin Andy. This right here is your great aunt Eddie. I was just like, so I'm not crazy. Like, so I mean, it's very important for us to have to be able to talk to our family. Our family has a lot of knowledge, and one of the issues I see is we're not passing this knowledge down. There's a lot of things that we can do that run in the family that nobody talks about, which makes it to where we we end up going through a lot of these issues, like how we both have had relationships that end up making us wonder and question, but ultimately brought out the best in us through a dark time, a bad time. I feel that these are things that could have been avoided if we talk throughout the family and pass that history down. What do you think?
So it's interesting that you say that. Oh, my cat is over here.
I
um,
need to get a cat.
yeah, he's cool. He's like afraid of my ring light because one time I thought I was getting him to come out of his shell, and then I started speaking, and then he ran away. So I'm like, maybe it's just my voice. So it's interesting that you say the thing about the family thing because like I know my dad can see spirits with like his
Hmm.
actual eyes. He didn't like talk about it a lot, but he's just like even 3 days ago, he told me that his grandmother also was able to do stuff, and that's when
Oh,
I
that's dope.
realized I'm not crazy because I spent a long time feeling like I was crazy and like I couldn't really talk about what I could do with my family because I was like, I don't think that they would understand and they would call me psychotic. And I'm like, now I'm like, oh, this is a thing.
It's interesting you say that. I was laying down with my wife, and okay, I'm not going to get too descriptive, but I was laying down with my wife when we were in the bed and I was holding her, and I started focusing on syncing my breathing with hers. Then I imagined myself sinking into her, like actually like falling into her skin type stuff on a non creepy way. But with it, it almost felt like I was in like a blue and purple Milky Way. That's what it looks like with my eyes closed and everything. I was like, okay, cool. I kept hearing this voice, Kim, Kim. I'm like, fuck. So I was thinking, because at the time I had a manager at the place I was working who was Kim. I was like, okay, that's weird as hell. And so I ended up getting done. I ended up like coming back out, open my eyes and everything, kind of looked at her. She was like, what? I was like, I just tried something and it was weird. She was like, what'd you do? And I explained to her. I was like, and I kept hearing this name, Kim, Kim. She was like, Kim. She was like, that's my godfather. I was like, your godfather's name is Kim? She was like, yeah, well, it's Kimberly, but he goes by Kim. He actually changed it to say Ken. I was like, I don't know why I kept hearing his name in there. She ended up going telling me, she was like, there's a bunch of shit going on right now, and like there's just a bunch of shit going on right now. I was like, oh. She was like, yeah. I was like, oh, that's cool. So then now with me and my wife, we are polyamorous, and I had another girlfriend at the time, which happens to be my other girlfriend at the time. Her husband was also my wife's boyfriend. This is the experience that really made me be like, okay, I'm not crazy, due to the fact that when the lying and all that stuff was going on, my intuition, another side of me was like twisting my gut and telling me like something's not right. Don't go further with this. I wasn't listening. I've had two people during that relationship tell me I was not listening. One was a prophet during my wife's church anniversary, and she literally called me up by everything that I was wearing, from my hat to my shirt to my pants, and I was sitting on the back pew in the church. She couldn't even see me. Called me up by what I was wearing. Asked me my name. She told me, she was like, they say that you're not listening. You need to listen. And I was like, fuck. So that kind of threw me off. And I mean, the thing that got me was, usually when you go into churches, they are like, oh, God, this, God, and yada, yada. She didn't say any of that. She said, they say you're not listening. So I was like, okay, it's the real deal. My mom was there 2 weeks before that. I told my mom what was going down. And my mom was like, look, she was like, you're not listening. You need to pray about this. My mom's a deaconess. But fast forward, this is your story. I just want to say that we need to stay more connected to our family. Our family is going to let us know things that are going on, which ultimately I believe will change the way that it will change a lot in our lives and things that we go through, because we will understand and have a better connection to the other realm, you know? Because I mean, if
Yeah, I
you
know what you
think
mean.
about it, looking back into your past, the things that you have seen, heard, felt, gone through, when you were in that previous relationship, were there times Or you're sitting there and you're like, ooh, it's telling me not to go. You're like, I don't want to go, but you end up going anyway. Like something in you is just like, don't go, don't go. One thing I love is I write. Let me illustrate the possible feeling. You're about to walk through the door, but then you turn around and you feel like you're missing something, but you can't think about what it is. And you're like, okay, cool, whatever. You try and go again, and something's like, no, pet your cat. Or like it's something's like pet your cat, and it's something is trying to get you to stay where you are, to where you recognize like, oh man, like I rather just like keep on playing with you, but I gotta go. I really need to go. I was gonna do this and I don't want to be late or whatever. Yeah, have you ever had situations like that?
Oh, I wouldn't say off the top of my head I can think of anything. I will say that
Hmm.
I have had a lot of I have like some OCD stuff going on. I thankfully am like way better with it now, but like the kind of thing where I have to check that the door is locked like 3 times and that the oven is off and everything. So I have come back after driving away to double
Hmm.
check that the door was locked. So that's
Yep.
the only thing I can think of when I think of that. But if
You're
I
gonna
ever
hate
have,
me.
why?
Cause I'm the same way. Like when I came into the room, I locked the door twice just to make sure that it was locked. Like I locked it, then I stepped away. I was like, "Did I lock it?" So I came back and locked it again and looked at it. It was like it's locked, right? So
Yeah, no.
I do similar things. Like I put deodorant on 10 times on each arm. I It's interesting. It's not a feeling like that. The feelings that
Right.
I would have, like for example, with the DUI I had got back in 2022. Yeah, back in 2023, correction, February 2023. We were still dealing with these stalkers, abusers,
Hmm.
and all that in court. We were trying to leave the state, and they decided to go around a path that ended up exposing them completely. And with that, we were in the process of moving, so we were in a hotel. I was going to watch the John Jones fight. As I'm walking out the door, I was like, "Give her another kiss." So I go back in, give her another kiss, and then it was like kiss. It was like give the kids a hug. So I give them a hug. And I was like, "I really don't want to go." And she's like, "But you've been talking about this all week," and da da da. I was like, "I know, but I was like, I could just lay down and just go to sleep. Like, I really don't need to go." It was that was telling me, it was like the feeling I was getting was, do you really need to go? Like, why do you want to go? Like, you should probably just stay here. It was almost like it was telling me, like, stay, stay. And that feeling I had was like, stay. Long story short, went out, watched the fight, came back. As I was coming back, got roughed up by the cops a little bit, and they threw me into a drunk tank. And I was like, I'm not even drunk, but all right, cool, whatever. But y'all already decided to do the things that y'all did that pissed me off, and then y'all find out I'm a Marine, and then you're like, oh shit. So I was like, wow, really? Okay, F you, 10 dicks and no lube. But
Hmm.
it's the things that, the way that source, I like to call it, will talk to us, at least from what I'm understanding, because I'm still new. I consider myself new. No matter how long I've been doing it, I always consider myself new. My grandma always says, read the Bible, God will talk to you. I was like, okay, will God talk to me, or will God make me feel something? Because everybody doesn't see, everybody doesn't feel, everybody doesn't hear. It comes in different ways, the way that they will be able to perceive it the best. And do you think that the way that you perceive things best is by seeing?
For me, it's definitely by feeling. Like my thing, my it seems like my specialty is really going into people's hearts and
Ooh.
feeling like their core emotions, their core and everything like that. So like there have been a couple of people I've recently that I've done readings for where I felt into their heart and
Yes.
I could feel that there was and I could feel who it was caused by, and I could
Oh
also
wow.
feel like about what kind of it was. So, and then I basically show them how this is impacting them today, how like what they kind of need to do to
Hmm.
heal from this in order to move forward from it so that they can actually continue on with their life where this is it's like holding them back basically and they're like not even consciously aware of it. So I'm the one that points it out to them basically.
I'm glad that we got back onto energy. How do you protect your energy and how do you block out others?
So normally what I do is I'll just like have a bubble of light or something around me, or I'll do prayers, or I will call
Hmm.
in Archangel Michael. And yeah, and every night I do, well, almost
That's
every
a
night I do
warrior.
TikTok live. Yeah, I do TikTok live. So like I will imagine a mirror like right in front of my camera on my phone, so that whatever energy comes out just gets bounced back into the camera because I don't want that shit. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways that I do it. I'll also wear a black obsidian necklace. Yeah,
Yep.
there's a lot of things that I do. It just kind of is like, what do I feel like doing? What do I feel is going to be best for whatever situation that I'm in?
Okay, I'm gonna have to find your TikTok, and we're gonna have to put that into the show notes as well. I personally don't do TikTok very much, just because of the fact that it drains the hell out of me. Like if I on, I do not do the co-host, just because
Mm,
you get random people that in, and
yeah,
sometimes you're like, yay. Other times it's like, all right, well, ending this.
yeah.
Well, since we are talking about the energy, energy plays a huge role in our daily lives. How can someone protect and cleanse their energy, especially when surrounded by negativity or emotional heaviness?
Oh boy. Yeah. So definitely really big thing would be like to put up a shield. Like it could be whatever
Hmm.
shield you want it to be. Do you want it to be a shield of like white light or a gold light? Or do you want it to like what do you want it to look like? Does you want it to be purple? What works for you? Like it's your shield. So
Oh snap! Keep on going.
okay.
You are tapping into things that I've been practicing.
Oh really? Okay, great. So and like sometimes I will like if I feel it coming, I will actively like push it. Like I will feel like I will intend to push it away from me, push it outside of me, or just put like a freaking wall between me and the person because I'm like, okay, this is like really heavy and I don't want to take it on. Like I know what the issue is, I can feel it now, and so I don't need to keep feeling it in order to be able to help this person. Like I said, calling in Archangel Michael, I'll ask him to even like cut cords for me and stuff. For like cleansing, I will use like selenite as like a knife or a sword or whatever you want to call it, and I'll just like intend to cut whatever cords are attached to my body.
Like a
My
selenite wand.
so yeah, selenite one, yeah. The
Yep.
thing that my go-to after I do expos every day. So if it's a 2-day expo, it's once every day. If it's 3, it's like it's every night basically. I take a hot bath with Epsom salts or table salt, whatever the hell kind of salt. It's got to be salt. And then I'll just like add some essential oils in there just to make it nice. But the salt is what really cleanses me of the energy from the day. I've tried a lot of other things that take a lot less time because it does take a lot of time to, like make a bath and do that stuff. And like, although the bath is my favorite, there are times where I get home from expos at like 9, 10 o'clock at night and I'm like, yo, I just want to go to bed. But that's the most effective thing for me. But like, even people can just take a bowl of salt with them in the shower and just like rub salt on their body. Like I tried that before. It has been effective, but there have been other times where it just wasn't as effective as like a bath would have been. Spraying sage spray, using like burning actual sage. Oh, after TikTok, I have this black obsidian crystal that I'll just like hold on to have it draw any negative energy out of my body.
I need to get one of those.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's pretty neat. So I know that there are other ways to. Oh, I have a tuning fork that I use to clear energy between readings when I do expos.
Do you remember the frequency of that tuning fork?
It's 528 hertz. It's the frequency of healing DNA. It doesn't have to be that frequency. That is just the one that I decided to use. It's just you're using sound basically. You can use little symbols. You can use a sound bowl. It's just it's all energy. So like, what do you want to use basically?
I love that. I actually have a tuning fork. So listening to you say that, okay, I feel like I'm on the right path now. When
Nice.
I was working customer service, I purposely got into customer service after working physical security just to make sure that I was able to protect myself. And every time that I was dealing with customers, I'd imagine like a white barrier, a white light barrier around me. It started off like very small. I got to the point where I started pushing it further and further away from me, covering me completely. So when you said light, you were like, it could be white. I was just like, oh, motherfucker. I was like, yes, I'm doing something right. But I would imagine that and just a complete barrier around me to protect myself from anything that was going on. I would end up pushing it further and further along as I worked there for about a year. And I just would always, when I got home, I was just like, I just want to like eat and go to sleep. Like I would be completely drained. It was, and it got to a point to where I could keep it probably about a good 7 inches away from me. I would always constantly imagine 7 inches. And when I dealt with a customer, I would drop it. And I'd be like, hey, how you doing? Welcome to such and such, whatever, boom, boom, anything else I can do for you. And I would feel the people. There's been times where I would tell people, I'm like, who's got a left knee problem? And the dude's like, oh, okay. I was like, all right, cool. Just make sure you put some Bengay or something on it when you get home or whatever. There was times where I'll be talking to coworkers, and I worked with just women at that point because we were cashiers. First of all, I have to commend you, Jessica. Y'all periods are no motherfucking joke.
Oh my
It felt
God.
like somebody kicked me in the left nut and it would not go away. I was just like, oh my God. But
That's
yes,
what you, okay.
that,
All right. That's awesome.
yeah, I was just like, what the fuck? And when my wife was pregnant with our first kid, I remember she was at her place. I was walking up the steps of mine, and my back spasmed. And now, granted, I have back spasms. I messed my back in my second tour in the Marine Corps. The way that this felt caught me off guard. It wasn't something I'm used to. So, I mean, when it comes down to being an empath and feeling other people, being able to differentiate what is you and what is somebody else. How could you kind of illustrate to us how you can recognize the difference?
It's funny that you say that because, like, I actually learned recently that like 90% of the guilt and shame that I felt in my life has actually been the shame and guilt of other people, and I just took it on as my own. So, like, that is something that I'm working through right now. That's super fun. I find myself asking, is this mine? Like there have been times where I picked up something from somebody. You could like I was driving to an expo one time. About halfway through the drive, you can pick up chords from people just by walking past them, just by driving by them. It doesn't it's easy to
So
pick up other
true.
people's energy. So
Yeah.
when I got to the expo, I was like, I feel like shit. Like I feel depressed and I was not depressed when I left and I don't know where this is coming from. I don't know why I'm depressed. So thankfully, I was able to get one of my healer friends who was there to cuz I was like, I've tried this, I've tried this, I've tried this. I cannot shake this off. I don't know what to do. So she spent a few minutes like cutting cords for me and at one point she was like, "Do you feel better?" And she was like or I was like, there's something weird with my chest. And I felt like she was like, describe it for me. And I was like, it feels like I have like mud and bugs and shit like all across my heart. And she was like, yeah, that's what I'm picking up. And so she had to like scrape it off. Like, of course it was energy, but like she had to just like scrape it off for me. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know what that was. But basically, if you're like not able to really pick up like an actual reason why you're feeling something, but also it's really good to just be like, how was I feeling before I came here? And what am I feeling now? Like, are there people around me who are being negative and I feel negative because they're being negative? Or was I like feeling this way before? So it takes some practice to determine what is yours and what is not yours. And this is a really big thing for beliefs too. But beliefs I have found are generally a lot harder to let go of. But it's like pretty much nope. Every negative belief system that we have is not ours. We weren't born feeling like we were worthless. We weren't born feeling like we weren't enough. We picked that up from somebody else. We picked it up from society, from family, or from just experiences, from things. We shit all the time and it screws us over. So even like belief systems, those Anything that makes us feel heavy, it's not ours. Are you speaking? If you're speaking, you're muted.
Yeah. I said I love that. Anything that makes us feel heavy is not ours. And
Yes.
it's interesting you say that due to the fact that a lot of us hold a lot of weight, and we're carrying around a lot of negativity and emotions and feelings based off of things that other people have done to us throughout our life.
Yeah. So,
What can you speak on with that?
actually, I just posted something today on Facebook, which was like, your, what was it? Something like, your worth is not determined by how people treat you. We tend to that when someone treats us poorly, it means that we are not enough or that we are not worthy. That is not the case at all. When somebody like says or makes us feel like we're not enough, it's because they're projecting their own sense of them not being enough. So it's like you never were not enough. Any way that somebody treats you that is less than love and light is a reflection of how they feel about themselves. We just assume that when somebody treats us like shit, that it means that we did something wrong or we're not good enough or we're not worthy. So it's just really important to keep in mind. It's something I read really recently. I tried reading this a couple years ago. It's the four. You got a lot of noise back going on, by the way.
Yeah, it's the four. Yeah, I've seen that, the four agreements.
So I tried reading this a couple years ago, and it just wasn't clicking. Now it clicks, and it's like it makes a lot of sense. Where I would really recommend people read this, especially if they're like kind of further along in their journey, where they can understand that we do so much based off of our experiences. We that we're not good enough. We that we're unworthy just because someone said something to us to kind of make us feel that way.
That's one thing that gets me a lot is the fact that there's a lot of knowledge out there. Like I'm sitting in the library right now. I'm looking at a bunch of books. So when you pull that up, I was like, man, a lot of individuals that I speak to have a lot of knowledge and they're able to pull books up left and right. Like they always have books next to them. Why I chuckled a little bit when you pulled it up. But also with that book, I actually had a woman recommend that book to me, actually gave me that book as a gift. That was one of the grandiose things that she did. And she portrayed herself as in big in spirituality. I recently learned a term called Banjer. And so I understand what it is now. But that is a really good book. When it starts to click and make sense to you, it kind of reminds me of the Bible. Now,
Hmm.
I'm not religious at all. I'm not atheist either because I believe in something, which made me think about what you started off with. And you were like, yeah, I was agnostic and then eventually going atheist. And I was like, that's funny because I was Christian Baptist and then kind of went atheist and then ended up turning agnostic. So so I was like, that's hilarious. I kind of went backwards from how you went. But when it comes to it, I realized that if you start applying the works to yourself, the riddle will become known. You will understand the riddle. If you read the Bible, a lot of people read the Bible and they see it as stories. Then they
Hmm.
might take it a step higher and be like, oh, I get the lessons behind these tales, no longer stories. Or they'll take it higher to where they're understanding that, oh, this is a code. It's not in order and it's saying something. You take it higher and you're like, oh my God, this is how you reach heaven. And you take it higher and you're like, this has nothing to do with God and Jesus and all this. And where I am realizing is reading the Bible, it's talking about ourselves, understanding that riddle of what Bible stands for basic instructions before leaving Earth. And when it comes
Mm.
down to it, when you're reading that and you look at it as in, wow, so you mean to tell me that our body, the temple, it's telling us that how we need to preserve it. Okay, cool. Christ is not a person, but it's a consciousness, how it rises up through the body, it reaching the heavens. What is the crown? how is that operating? When it starts going into the spiritual realm, when you're talking about the different chakras, when you're talking about the land of milk and honey, which is really comes down to the secretions that the pineal gland shoots down to go down the spine, to flow down the spine, therefore creating different rivers. I'm like, holy crap. But when you start to look at things differently and you open your eyes, all of them, and realize, you know what? I've been living in a world to where I was being told what was real and what was not. You've been being gaslit your whole life to think that if anything that goes against what you're being told is happening, no, you need to forget it. It's a lie. You're crazy. But then when you start to understand that this world that we thought was just it is so much bigger and there's so many more things that encompass it, that are inside of it, and you start to realize that, you know what, there's more than just five senses. Now everybody might not be able to tap into six or seven, but there's more than just five. You can still
Mhm.
see, but see on a different plane, see in a different realm. You can hear. Some people hear in a different realm. Some people smell on a different realm. Some people have dreams and don't realize that they're actually astral projecting to a whole other place. I'm like, we all are magnificent beings. We all have had things that we've gone through, which were honestly blessings and lessons. Lessons, whether you don't, even if you don't realize what the lesson was yet, we all have something that we can learn from them. We've all been through things, some greater, some less than others, but it's able to teach us things. It's able to show us things that sometimes we just need confirmation or validation on to truly understand. And that's when we need those mentors, whether that is someone in
Mhm.
your family or someone who understands what it is that you're dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah, no, community is like super important. That's something that I've found out recently. I kind of had mentioned, I think I mentioned earlier about how I had like shut off my heart and stuff from all the experiences. And it's so interesting because what I'm learning is when, because I'm still on my own healing journey, I'm still working through my own stuff. When
Should be
someone,
every day.
oh, yeah. So when someone shows me love, I can allow myself to accept the love, but then there's a part of me that's like, I need to take all the love that I can get because I don't know when it's going to end. And then I'm like,
Mm.
ooh, okay. So then I'm like, no, just allow it. Just accept the love exactly as it is. It's not going to run out. And then my brain
Yes.
goes, well, maybe I should pull away because then if they want to pull away, then I'm the one who's doing it. I'm the one who's taking the love away from myself. And then I'm like, oh my
Mhm.
God. What? So, yeah.
That I
Mm.
can definitely relate to that. Where it's just like, okay, cool, you've been hurt before, so now you don't want to allow somebody to hurt you. You're like, I'm going to remove myself before you have the chance of hurting me. But then with it, that kind of plays into the cycle of hurt people hurt people.
Yeah. Same.
Now, in the book that I was talking about earlier, Empaths versus Narcissists, or Empaths and Narcissists, not verse, but Empaths and Narcissists, they talk about how when it comes down to it, empaths, we have that dark psychology as well. We can be manipulative. Now the thing is we recognize when we are, and we if we do, we choose to. A narcissist, that's kind of like their go-to.
Mm,
A lot of things with us is we for the sorry, I'm going through the page.
you're good.
Empaths are more heart feeling. They can cause bad, but they know that it'll hurt them if they do. Now, with that, are there some times where, for in my situation, I knew that I would hurt this person, but I saw it as justice. Now, I wasn't hurting the person physically. I knew that the me speaking the truth was going to cause pain in their life, but I saw it as justice, so I allowed it. Has there
Hmm.
been times for you where you knew that something would cause pain to a person? However, you also knew that it was the right thing to do.
I mean, yeah, once I started choosing myself because I had gone my whole life not choosing myself, and then I eventually realized like I can't just live for other people. I need to be honest about how I'm feeling and what I want. And I don't need to get permission from anybody to do what I want. And that me doing what I want to do to create a better life for myself is not about the people around me at all. They may take it personally, but it really doesn't have anything to do with them at all.
Preach. Oh man. Oh yeah. In the future, just so you know, I would love for you to just hop on a calendry or whatever it's called again in the future and just like book something because I would love to have you on again just to have some conversations. Due
Oh,
to
yeah.
the fact that the things that I'm reading, the things that I know about myself and my family, I feel I can have a fun but serious conversation with you about these things while I'm learning, and who knows, I might be able to teach you something awesome.
Probably.
So I'm just like, a wise man is the one who knows he knows nothing. A fool is the one who thinks he knows everything. And I like to think that I have a bit of wisdom because I think I'm stupid as shit. But then I had to realize, you know what? I'm not stupid. I'm ignorant. I don't know, but I'm willing to learn. It's not that I don't know and I don't want to know. Stupid. I don't know
Mm,
and I'm willing to learn. Ignorant. So
yeah.
with that, I'm constantly seeking more information from other individuals. This podcast for me is my spiritual growth and journey through life. And everybody that I talk to, I'm able to learn things through. That is community. So having other individuals speak their truth, there's things that is also that you have said that validated how I felt, that I have
Mm,
gone through. And with that, you're helping me realize, bring myself to loving myself and knowing, you know what, that was true. It was okay for you to feel the way you felt when that was happening to you. Just from dealing with narcissists, they all do the same thing. So hearing you say some
yeah.
things, I'm like, I'm not crazy. Yeah. But I appreciate that. And I thank you for that. Thank you so
Oh,
much,
thank
Jessica.
you. I appreciate knowing that I made a difference. That's like kind of
Oh,
why I do this stuff. So, yeah.
is there anything that you would want to say to any listeners who are listening to this beautiful podcast with Miss Jessica?
Oh, really, it's I think it's kind of what I was just saying is I want people out there to understand, especially because like Pluto shifted into Aquarius on November 19th last year, and so we are now in the age of Aquarius, which is really about empowerment and freedom and like really being yourself. So understand like if how do I even word this? If you are around people and you feel like you can't be completely yourself and you feel like you're not loved as a result, it's because you're showing people who like a false version of you. How can you give people a chance to really love you if you won't show them all of who you are? I know that people are afraid of being rejected or judged or criticized, but if that's the case, then those are not your people anyway. You will find the right people. Even me, as I continue to shine my light and be myself, like be myself authentically, I am having people come into my life who are reflecting back to me my higher self instead of my shadow self. And so basically, what I want people to know is that it is okay to just be you. It is okay to choose you because you're not being selfish. And if you want to call it being selfish, then think of it as selfish in the good way because selfish does not have to be bad. You could be self full. You could think of it like that. So, the way that people react to you is not about you, it's about them. However, the way that people react to you could be a reflection of how you feel about yourself. So if you feel that someone is judging you, are you judging yourself already? If someone is criticizing you, are you already criticizing yourself? Pay attention to if someone is showing you how you really feel about yourself, or if it's a challenge for you to choose you, or both.
That was beautiful. I was like, that's gonna be a clip right there.
Yes.
That was magnificent. I
Thanks.
love that. With it, I am going to go ahead and close this out. I have to ask you one more thing though.
Cool.
I always end the episode with gratitude and what did you learn?
What am I grateful for? I'm grateful for my fucking self. Honestly, I am grateful for myself for showing up for myself every single day and working to be the best that I can be and working to heal from all my and choosing myself over and over and over again after a lifetime of living for other people. I learned, hmm, I learned that you and I are mirrors for each other and that we have a lot in common, which it does not surprise me because people are generally mirrors for each other. So, considering your history with learning about your abilities through your family lineage and just like, you having your experiences, like it just also confirms for me again, like I know I'm not crazy, but I spent a long time thinking that I was crazy. But yeah, so just learning that the more people I meet, the more I see myself in other people, and that also helps me see the more that we are actually all connected.
I can agree completely on that. One thing that I believe is we all are source living multiple realities. And in those different realities, we're going through different things. Like what you go through in your life, I may or may not have gone through, but it's going to be different than your circumstance, you know?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's beautiful to think like that. We all are connected, just like how coral has many different little fingers, but they all connect together to be able to synchronize and understand the feelings of what the other ones are feeling, which that's crazy to think about. We all are our own individuals living multiple realities. However, with me and you coming together right now and sitting here looking at each other and talking and everything, our realities slightly have merged. When we understand that we all are connected, it eventually is going to reflect when and force us to think about the way that we are towards other people. For example, if you did something that hurt my feelings and I was about to react, not respond, but react with harsh words that I know would hurt you, to be able to sit there and understand that for me hurting you, I'm really hurting myself.
Yeah.
So when we realize that we're all connected in that way, I feel that we'll be able to bring love back into this planet. And that's what
Mhm.
ultimately what we're missing so much of. And I know that's the reason why I gravitate towards animals a lot more than beings at the moment.
Yeah.
But I
No,
really
I'm the same way.
appreciate you. I really appreciate you being on here.
Thank
Respect.
you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.